6:34. Call the RCC August 14th meeting to order. Josh, do you mind being a timekeeper?
Sure.
Okay, you got it. Scott, I assume there's no one in the public for non-agenda items? Okay. Item 3 on the agenda is approval of minutes, draft minutes from July 10. They weren't originally attached to the email sent out from Ben on Friday, and Ben resent them later this afternoon. I guess I can do this, but I want to make a motion that we not approve these minutes until commissioners have had time to review them and provide comment.
That sounds good to me.
Do you first want to ask if commissioners have had time to review them?
Okay, well, I haven't had time, so.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah. So has everyone reviewed the minutes?
I haven't had time either.
Discussion.
I think I looked at them. I did look at them since the last meeting, but not here. So I think we have a couple people that have looked at them.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we hold off on approving the July 10th meeting minutes until the September meeting, as I haven't had time to thoroughly go through them.
Sure. Ron, are you not seeing drafts anymore?
I can't remember if Phil sent out a draft a while back. I think I saw it. But
I think Ben did these.
This one looks totally different.
Yeah, I did these ones, which is probably why they didn't get correctly uploaded to the city webpage. I learned that it doesn't like when you upload PDFs, it wants to be a Word file. So
Yeah, so I made a motion. Is there a second? Because I want to get into discussion about that.
A second.
Okay, discussion. First of all, Ben, we need to have these 5 days before our meeting. And so ideally we need to get them on Wednesday instead of Friday.
right.
So we can have time to review and comment. And you said you prepared these meeting minutes?
I did.
Well, they're not the best. Grammatically, it's horrible. So they need to be revised and updated. I can make my comments on them. I looked at it briefly going through them, and I just stopped and go, there's too many changes that they have to be made to the meeting minutes. So that's why I really would like to have it. That's why I want it postponed until next month. So I can provide those
Sounds
comments.
good.
Yeah, we could easily move that to the September meeting.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Can I just ask, since I missed this one, and apologies for being out, that 4B, the ordinance 2023-0-14, construction of private wells, is that the farm
Yes.
result? Can somebody just quickly give me a recap on, is that the outcome of that? Are we clear of it at this point?
I can give you an update. I listened to both the council and the Ag and Rural Affairs meeting. Do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
The Ag and Rural Affairs opted to, I think that their terminology was defer voting on the ordinance because they had, if I remember correctly, 3 concerns. All the concerns were, they thought that the ordinance was too restrictive. The ordinance amendment restricted that land, that was restricted to raising fruits and vegetables, 10 acres, and you couldn't drink the water. And they thought that those were just too restrictive, and they formed a committee to meet with the Director of Public Works to discuss the reasoning for those restrictions and their concerns about them. And their plan at that time was to vote on it when they meet this month. Since Ag and Rural Affairs didn't take any action, the council decided to wait until their second meeting in August, and then they would act on it. Ag and Rural Affairs, I should say, they were very much in favor of letting this fella drill the well. They were just concerned with the wording in the amendment.
Okay.
So yeah, I think from Groundswell Conservancy, who's the ones that we've been kind of working with them,
Groundswell, yeah.
they think it is overall positive to get, you know, kind of the language of the amendment correct. And so the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee meeting is tomorrow at 4 p.m. And then the council meeting following that will be on the 22nd. So at that point, it should be final. I think that I am going to try to, you know, just register in support of it for the meeting on the 22nd is my game plan. May attend that one.
Which meeting is that, Jim? Chris?
That's the council meeting.
Council meeting, okay.
Assuming it, if it does pass tomorrow, then it would be, the final vote would be on the 22nd council meeting.
Okay. Do we know if this has impacted their operations out there by the delay?
I mean, it's not ideal, but it seems like, you know, they're working towards the finish line. So I think, you know, they're happy with that. You know, obviously, this year was more using treated chlorinated water.
Yeah.
And so, you know, went through another year of that, but, you know, it certainly seems to be on a track to potentially be installed yet this year. So it'll be ready to roll for next, you know, growing season.
And they'll be able to use it this winter. So, and that otherwise would not have access to water.
Well, as long as they can get the well drilled in time and get them out there. But yeah, that's that. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. And does our approval of that ordinance, that'll kind of continue to, or can we kind of message that'll carry through with this updated language? I mean, you know, I'm a fan of them clarifying. I appreciate the you know, being worried about the restriction and stuff like that. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
I don't know if the council would want to send that back around, but I know the mayor knows that there's a sense of urgency to get this done. So I don't think that they'll recirculate it.
Yeah, no, I don't want them to recirculate. I'm just wondering if Chris is planning to attend, like, Chris, just carry our message that, you know, or whoever, I guess, RCC is in attendance for that one, that the committee is clearly in full support of the updated language and we want to see a resolution to this kind of thing.
Well, we don't have the updated language, so.
Yeah. Well, so maybe once we get that, maybe this is a question for our city colleagues then. Can we circulate that as soon as we get anything, the updated version of it, so that we could weigh in whatever way makes sense, whether that's us individually submitting for that committee meeting or what, you know, whatever we can do to kind of speak to that new language without recirculating. I don't want to recirculate because I don't want to delay it anymore.
Can we circulate that as sort of like a petition that we all sign on to individually without violating the walking quorum or the open meetings?
Right. So it could definitely be, when the language is updated, that can be sent back out to the RCC for informational purposes. Alder Gerhardt could certainly express to council that what RCC voted on previously, and, you know, the changes since then. She could give her sense that the RCC does support those changes, but yeah, no formal action could be taken without another RCC meeting in the meantime. But certainly individuals could go to, could either write to their alders or go to that meeting and express support.
Okay.
But certainly the new language could be circulated at the very least.
That would be awesome, because I'd love to be able to speak to that personally. I sense there's other commissioners that would without us delaying this any further. So thank you for the clarification on that.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks,
It looks
Chris.
like it's agenda item 5D on the Ag and Rural Affairs agenda tomorrow.
Item what? 5 what?
5D.
B as a boy. Okay.
D is in dog.
Oh, D. Okay. Okay. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of postponing the approval of the July 10th meeting minutes till September meeting, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. All those opposed? All right. Approved. Okay, let's move on to item agenda 4, new business. Review and approval of the resolution R-153.23 authorizing the acceptance of the Greenway Cross and Igaman Road intersection stormwater improvement bid. Is there a motion?
I make that motion.
I'll
I
second.
second. Discussion? Ben, you want to give us an update on this?
Yeah, so this this work is really to alleviate some street flooding issues that occur periodically at the Greenway Eggman intersection following moderate rains. So there's been reports from a couple of the businesses at that intersection, as well as some of the apartment buildings, both north and south of Greenway. Yep.
Can you pull up a map?
Yes, I can do that.
Ben, I've got one I could pull up. You want me to share?
1 second, I've almost got it up. All right, so it's this intersection right here. You've got Greenway Cross going east-west, and then this section of this north-south section of Agaman Road. There's been flooding recorded at this intersection and really all the way up to Coho Street by several of these apartment buildings, a couple businesses, and this project will essentially extend storm sewer about from this new roundabout at Bryant and Greenway Cross, and it'll extend it up to this intersection. And then there will be 2 inlets basically at each corner of the intersection. So 8 total inlets. It's a 36-inch pipe that'll connect into an existing 42-inch pipe that goes kind of underneath the roundabout. So I would almost say this is kind of the first phase. Well, honestly, this work to extend storm sewer past Bryant would have been kind of the first phase of alleviating some of these flooding issues here. So this kind of second phase, if you will extend it up to this intersection. And then at some point, probably when Greenway Cross were to be reconstructed, then they could continue extending storm sewer, hopefully implement, some kind of a stormwater management BMP. Right now, just due to the age of the developed area around here, this was really before stormwater management practices were required for these developments. So there's a lack of that in this area. But this project should set the city up well to at a later date implement some sort of a stormwater management device further upstream, and in the interim, it will at least help to alleviate some of the flooding that occurs in this intersection. So it's primarily a storm sewer project. They will be doing a little bit of tweaking of the grades at the intersection just to help water to continue moving to the east. They'll also be redoing some curb ramps here, or sidewalk ramps. They're not all ADA compliant, so we'll be getting those to meet the ADA grades. So yeah, that's kind of the brief summary of the project.
Where's the drain to now, Ben? Stormwater in that area.
It all does drain to these inlets at this roundabout.
Okay.
But there's some grading issues through this intersection. It also kind of flattens out here. So it's pretty steep on this side. So you can get this deluge of water coming down Greenway Cross and Agaman. It kind of just, softens out here. And you end up getting quite a bit of water stuck at this intersection. So the idea is you put the 8 additional inlets at this intersection so you can pick it up before it makes its way east.
How long has that roundabout been there?
Not long. I think this was constructed as part of the fish hatchery project.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, not that long ago.
Ben, did I understand correctly that the fish hatchery project contributed to this issue?
It did not contribute to the issue, but it basically allowed this project to occur. So when they extended or when they installed this roundabout, they extended some storm sewer out here. So it kind of looks funny because you've got these 2 storm sewer lines right on top of each other. These 2 that connect the inlets are just like it's a small 12-inch pipe. But this underneath is actually a very deep 42-inch pipe. So with that being there, it allows installation of a 36-inch pipe and the ability to carry that storm sewer up into this area, Agaman, and then the design is set up so when these streets get reconstructed, then they'll be able to tap into a manhole and continue running storm sewer up the streets if needed. I don't know if it would be necessarily up on Agaman, but certainly I would think the next phase would be extending storm sewer up Greenway Cross to probably Coho Street.
So is this in the plan when Fish Hatchery Road was reconstructed? Not as part of the reconstruction, but going forward just to allow for it?
So they when they were doing the stormwater analysis for fish hatchery, they did look at this drainage area. It's about 40 acres or so. And they were aware that there was an issue at these intersections, which is why they used the 42-inch pipe and placed it deeper. I almost thought that could have been part of the fish hatchery project. I don't know, how it was determined to stop it here and not just extend it further, but they were aware of the project or they were aware of the flooding issues, and that did to an extent inform their design of the storm sewer at this roundabout.
So was this project sort of in the works? I mean, it's not something that just came up in the last 6 months.
Well, it's been a known issue for a while. We were getting some pressure from some of the residents and businesses around there that we're dealing with some issues, which I think kind of moved this project up to the front burner, if you will.
So it was never budgeted for?
It's not in the CIP.
Are we doing this instead of another stormwater project?
I wouldn't say instead. So it's being funded. Total project cost is going to be around $300,000. $115,000 is funded by TID 10. About $70,000 is funded there's a CIP project with recurring funding just called drainage and flooding improvements. So it's all of that money for this for 2023. So I guess, Ron, in that sense, it is a CIP project, or it's partially funded by CIP dollars. And actually the rest of the remaining funding, because there's still about $100,000 left, is going to be funded by it's transferring money from the pond dredging and retrofits account. So we had our dredging project this year. We're going to be left with about $350,000 after they completed all the work this year. We are working on another project, be a stormwater management retrofit project that we're planning on using those dollars for, but I think even with $100,000 being transferred out of that account to fund this project, you've still got $250,000 left, and I figure that'll be enough to fund the other basin retrofit project that we're working on and hoping to get out this year.
So
Yeah,
not
Go
to
ahead,
put you on the spot, Ben, but are you comfortable directing those dollars toward this?
Definitely the flooding and drainage dollars. I feel like that's, this is the kind of project that's for. It's always nice to have a little extra money for the dredging projects, just because that is expensive. But I feel that we'll still get the dredging projects and BMP retrofit projects that we wanted to get done. So, it is a real problem with the flooding here. So I think it's still going to have a positive impact.
Has the city used Badgerland Excavating for other projects like this?
They have done underground utility work. I have not worked with them while at the city, but I know some of the other engineers have. They've completed some other kind of stormwater projects. I think not really a similar project to this, but the burn pond retrofit, that was Badgerland. I think they did, again, not really a similar project, but I believe they did the McGaw pickleball courts. And I'm sure that Tracy Foss, the assistant city engineer, has worked with them on water main projects in the past.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I think you answered my question. I had a concern about the go back the $136,000 that was going to be unspent from the stormwater dredging fund. I'm just worried that we're going to be robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it's just like, are we taking something away from another project that the funding was meant for? So, but you feel comfortable that with the remaining funds that we can complete all those other dredging projects that we have?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the city was already able to complete dredging of 3 ponds this year, and there'll still be money left over to complete the BMP retrofit project that we wanted to do this year. So of course, it's always nice to have more money than you need, but I still feel that we'll be able to get the projects that we wanted to get completed this year done with the funding.
Were those other projects, were they under budget when they were completed? Or going to be under budget?
Well, for the dredging project, those 3 ponds, the city had carried over dollars from that dredging account for several years. So I think when we started 2023, there was $600,000-$700,000 in there. I would say they came in kind of at budget, but there was just so much additional funds that it's hard to spend that much on dredging projects in 1 year, unless you were doing one big pond like McKee Farms Park, and that would be a different story.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? If no further discussion, let's take a vote on approving resolution R-153-23. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. None opposed. The resolution's approved. Thanks, Ben. All right, item 4B, discuss 2024 refuse and recycling rates. Okay, Ben, ready for this one?
Yep, and I can share my screen again.
Yeah.
All right. So you can look at this sheet first. This is just kind of an estimate for all contractor costs for 2024. Unit costs for all of their different services were updated based on the contract rates for 2024, as well as the number of units. These are just estimates at this point. In total, we're estimating total contractor costs of $1,387,650. Here is just kind of the budget so far through 2023, as well as the requests that were made for 2024. So for 2023, we are looking to be at about just shy of $43,000 more expenditure than revenue. So that's about what we anticipated. We were using the fund balance to pay things down last year, just as they've done in previous years. So that's kind of where it sat for total expenditures.
So you're saying we're going to be over $42,000 something dollars?
Under.
It's going to be less than that. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. We'll go back here. Some of these costs, I'll just have to check in with Misty on. Some of these salaries and wages, I know it's going to be less because we don't have an environmental technician this year. So I know it, or not for the full year. So some of that will be less. But right, so that's kind of the small stuff I'll have to take a look with Misty at. But for now, without having all of those numbers, yeah, it would be $42,872. So what I did for these estimates, I just multiplied, or I just used the prior year's budget numbers and put them in for the estimates. I didn't try to, discern how much less salaries, overtime, that kind of stuff that the city would be paying out. Whoops. So
okay, I guess I misunderstood. So we're going to be under budget then.
Well, I think we'll still be over budget. It just won't be $42,000 over budget. So if you look at this column here where my cursor is, we plan to be $37,687 over budget, and then that's what the fund balance would pay. In previous years, we've been up 28,000, been down 46,000. So sometimes, you're over budget, sometimes you're under budget. And then that's where that fund balance comes into play. They want to keep the fund balance, about 25% to cover these overages. So then there's plenty plenty, if you're $40,000 over 1 year, the fund balance will have more than enough dollars to cover that.
Ben, can you walk us through that chart that says 2024 estimated solid waste contract costs? So I think it's the first chart that you should, that one. How does that work? Because if I take the for example, how did you arrive at the 277,512 in the subtotal column?
This 647, or sorry, what was that number?
It's in the first line in the subtotal column, $277,512.
Okay. So that number is basically just the total number of units, 6,200 multiplied by the unit cost. So that's, what we figure Pelletary will charge for curbside refuse pickup in the first half of 2024.
So it should be 6,200 times 746 times 26.
Did that 6,200 get copied over from a different cell? Because yeah, that comes out to about 46,000.
Yeah.
Sorry, by times 52, because it's once a week. So it's 52 times 7.46 times 6,200.
That's 2.4 million.
No,
Yeah.
that's not right, because this is only half the year, so it wouldn't be
Yeah.
52, it would be 26. But it's
Oh,
the math,
it's probably
math
26 then.
but the math still doesn't work.
Let me open up the spreadsheet.
And while you're doing that, what's the actual units now?
Just shy of 6,200.
So it looks like it's by month.
Well, I think if you add all those numbers under unit cost, take the sum and multiply it by 6,200, I think it comes out close. Is that what's happening?
It just looks
Yeah,
like it's a
it
monthly
does.
multiplier instead of weekly.
Right.
So is that unit cost per month?
Yes,
So
because it's times
740
6, so half of the year.
Okay. Then can you explain why in the chart that's got the highlighting, why is the apartment brush, why is it going up at a significantly smaller percentage?
Well, we could look at raising. We could have a discussion about raising the 2024 apartment brush rates. That's a conversation we could have.
Well, I think if you look at 2020 and compare it, what the unit charge has gone up, that percentage, and the apartment charge has gone up, they're not in sync. And
The apartment brush is slightly higher, it looks like. It's about 14% versus 13% over the 4 years.
No, I don't think so. Considering labor and fuel charges have gone up, I would have expected we would bump that up more than 15 cents from last year.
Yeah, I can take a further look at that. And we'll have this again September, so we'll get a couple looks at it. I know it was a little late last year, so we'll be able to have some discussion this time around, and then circle back.
When we did this last year in September, I think the proposal had already gone to council, and it was too late for us to have much of an input except Gabriella's conversation with council. But I think the resolution had already been sent to council.
I'll have to look at that. I'll have to look at that when I did that last year. I thought that was maybe in September, in October, but I'll have to check that. So
my other question on this chart is, you've got the, I'm assuming that you're proposing on the top line, it says 2024 unit charge of $230.
Yeah, so I've got a few highlighted, kind of circling back to our earlier discussion with me having to circle back with Misty on getting some of those estimates a little bit more nailed down. So I just put this range in. At this point, I think I'm very comfortable that this would be an appropriate range for the 2024 costs.
Well, just so that we're all on the same page, that vertical column that follows it is based on a rate of, let me just look at this again, $232, not $230. So when your discussion about the fund balance at the end of 2023, fund balance applied, that's based on if I'm reading this correctly, that's based on $232.
It should. So this number right here, it's this 230.
Yeah.
That's where these numbers are all kind of based off of this 230.
But your fund balance at the end of 2024, that 468,377 if you go down that's at $232.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, it should be 455,877.
That's what I would like.
Good catch, Diane.
Yeah.
Can you also speak to that last line in the unassigned fund balance, this 1-year state revenue recycling grant? What's that 105,000?
So each year the city gets $105,000. It's kind of like an entitlement grant from the state. So based on the size of a municipality in, I don't remember what year it was, like 1999 or something, they divvied up a fund. So they set aside a certain number of dollars each year, and based on whatever population of these cities were in whatever it was, 90s, early 2000s, that's the basically entitlement fund that the state provides for recycling programs. So
we're getting those dollars?
Yeah.
What's that?
We're getting those dollars, we're not giving those.
Yeah, so it's a grant that the city applies for and completes some reporting on each year, and the state then provides us $105,000 to help cities out with their recycling and refuse and recycling programs.
So shouldn't the fund balance be going in the other direction at the bottom? That 105,000 is subtracted from the fund balance.
Yeah, I'd have to, I guess, clarify that with Misty, but my understanding is that since that $105,000 gets used every year, it doesn't, it's not included in the fund balance because it's considered assigned already. It's not unassigned. So I think it's just the fact that the $105,000, we've got this $363,000 that's unassigned. So the city wouldn't use it. It just gets carried over to the next year.
But I guess unless
I
that
guess I'm not,
100,
I would think that the $105,000 wouldn't even really be included in the fund balance at all.
that's why I'm confused, because unless it's
But-
captured higher in the calculation, then we shouldn't even be taking it away then.
Yeah, it's a little goofy, so I could get some clarification from Misty on that.
Okay.
So today, are we supposed to vote on the 230 unit charge and the apartment brush charge? Or is that coming it back in a resolution that will be referred to us?
Yeah, that'll come back in the resolution.
Well, I'd like to see the apartment brush go up at least 725.
Okay. And what I'll look and see what from 2020 to 2024, what the unit charge for just curbside refuse and recycling is, and then maybe try to apply a similar percentage to the apartment brush, and see where that gets it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ben. No further discussion?
I have two things related to this, but not
Okay.
on this particular chart. If you look at the it says 2024 estimated solid waste contract cost. It's the smallest document you have in this part of it. I think it's that one. It brings up to mind two things. One, there's yard waste and brush on there, and I didn't see this in the minutes, and I'd like this to be one of the action items from the last minutes, that you were going to contact Pelletieri to set up a meeting so we can have a discussion.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So I did. David and the city's account representative Tim, they're looking at their schedule. They're going to send some dates. I was actually meant to email I know Josh, Chris, and yourself, Diane, today about seeing what your guys' availability would be. But yes, we will meet with them.
Good. And the other thing is, I think you were going to check with them on the volume of cardboard that's coming out of the recycling site. Do we still need that extra cart, or how things are going?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll look into that.
And the last thing, not to bombard you too much, but on the topic, we talked about, since this contract is coming up for renewal next year, and one of the ways RCC thought we could save residents money was by eliminating the unlimited recycling, curbside recycling cart, and limiting it just to the cart that they have. So it'd be helpful, I think, for that discussion to have an idea. And you've got a couple of months, obviously, to work on this, but to have an idea of how many residents actually use that overflow at the curb.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
since it's an unknown for Pelletieri to estimate, they have to estimate on the side of not losing money. So it's a pretty significant savings based on our last conversation with them.
Right. Yes, the option to not have the unlimited was significantly less in their previous response to RFP.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see it, people with a bunch of bags next to their recycling bin, but certainly not often. So
I think it's rare, and I also think the compliance is really poor, right? I think unfortunately it gives people this idea that they can put any bag out there, and then the unfortunate thing is, if it's not a clear bag, I'm sure the recycling guy is taking it because he doesn't want to get a call, and then they're just throwing it away, right? And so I'm in agreement that I'd love to explore that conversation. And Diane, I appreciate the call out. I was going to bring that up too. Would love to have that yard waste and brush discussion and understand what their plans are for that.
Just to fueled by my own curiosity, I saw a recycling bin in a different state over the weekend that had a sticker on there with sort of diagramming out what is and isn't appropriate to put in recycling bins, what the process is. Don't put things in plastic bags, put them loose in the bin. Is that something that Fitchburg, knowing that RCC is previously the recycling committee, is that something Fitchburg has looked into in the past, either distributing those stickers or magnets, or actually putting them on recycling bins before distributing them to residents? I think that I see a lot of that in my neighborhood, and I've thought that a lot of residents could probably use a reminder about proper recycling practices, but there's not really an efficient way to do it other than putting something individually on every can that they're looking at every other week.
We actually did do that.
We did.
Maybe,
Okay.
Chris, were you on RCC when we did that?
Yeah, I think at least we have a sticker inside ours that we got, gosh, that was probably around what, 2012, 2013 when we were working on the composting pilot, Diane?
Maybe. The problem that we had, as I recall, the problem we had was getting people to put it on the carts. And so the city staff went around doing it. Council did not like or did not appreciate that that's how they were spending their time. And it just, I mean, we had one printed up that was a nice size, at least, I don't know, 8 by 10 maybe, but getting it stuck on was the problem.
Yeah, and making sure that it's something that's weatherproof and
it was kind of like a vinyl thing.
Yeah, it's something you'd probably start by doing it, volunteer. If people make the effort to come pick it up from City Hall, they're more likely to also put it in their bin rather than just sending one out to everybody, and then see how that improves compliance and go from there. Yeah, just it would be something that might be worth talking in the future. I'm just curious if we'd ever done it before. So thanks.
Yeah,
Bill,
Phil,
I
I think the
think-
messaging is good.
I think my recycling bin has it printed right on it.
Does it? Okay. Maybe mine doesn't. I just haven't noticed it. I don't. We'll just say it's because I thought I didn't need it.
I'll have to look at mine, but I do like
Yeah,
that
me too.
idea.
That brings up another topic, because I'm planning on writing that, having that article for the Star on what happens to the fate of recyclables, and it actually from there it goes into things that you can't. I mean, I think it's called wish cycling, things that you shouldn't be recycling, and I'm wondering. I know I don't know where the city is with the Star, but we depend on the Star to get our word out to residents about recycling and sustainability and things like that. And if I guess since Gabriella's not here, we probably don't have an answer to where we are on getting the city's webpage or the city's purchase of 2 pages in the Star back going. But that really handicaps us as far as getting the word out on a number of things.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Star updates. I think that would be a question for Gabriella, unless Ben, you've heard anything.
I have not.
Okay.
Have we ever had, a community meeting, like a quarterly meeting or an annual meeting where we talked about recycling, what you can recycle and what you can't? I mean, people would bring things to the meeting, say, can I recycle this? Or Pelletieri would have, a list of items that you can recycle and can't recycle, common things that people use on a regular basis.
We did have an event, and we had Pelletieri have a display on what could be recycled. That was quite a while ago. Chris, do you want to talk up to that?
I don't know how long ago that was, but I do recall having it. I mean, it's, I think Ron, the point's made. I mean, I think that it's, recycling education is something that, can't be like maybe once every 10 years. It needs to be, probably more continuous in different forms and fashions. So I think it's a good point, and I think we should, always be thinking about how we can do that outreach, and maybe have it be a little bit more consistent, instead of it getting to a point where we need to react to a situation and try to, improve something that, isn't going the way it should be.
Yeah, my wife and I always have kind of spirited discussions like, is that recyclable? I go, well, I don't know. I look at the list, I go,
We did have for a while on the city's page in the Star, like recycling do's and don'ts, which would answer, is this recyclable? Is that recyclable? That only lasted for maybe a couple of issues, but now since the city doesn't have if the city had the page, we could do that again. We could remind people this is not recyclable, or this is how you recycle, whatever it is. That's why I said we're just handicapped, and I don't know that if we had an event around recycling, I'm not sure how we could get people to attend that. That seems kind of boring.
Yeah, well, and then it's the people that attend are probably the ones that are already pretty good at recycling.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah,
Was it something we could,
one place where we've done some work in the past where we, haven't done as much work the past few years, especially since COVID, has been in the apartment recycling, and so, or the multifamily. So I'd like to figure a way to get some of those things rolling again, because that was, an opportunity where we would just pop into, just for the people that weren't here. What we would do is we went a few times to different apartment complexes around Fitchburg, and we would essentially do a traveling recycling demonstration and talk to the residents about recycling. And we would provide pizza, and then we'd also do some reusable bag decorating at those events. It would be nice to find a way to get some of that going again.
mhm.
Apology, just a heads up that we're about 20 minutes behind at this point.
Okay. All good ideas. Any else further discussion on this topic? If not, let's go ahead and move to agenda item 4C, discuss progress on renewable outreach and programs for Fitchburg. Phil?
Sure. So most of my outreach muscle has been spent lately on trying to figure out the sustainability plan and work through B-cycle things. There hasn't been much done lately on renewable outreach. I assume I know I've been out for the past several days and didn't get much of a chance to talk in detail with Ben about the agenda, but I assume this is just something that we kind of had standard on here for the August meeting. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right, yep.
Yeah. So, at this point, I think the biggest, we, still maintain the city's websites on renewables. For the most part right now, the energy is being put into the sustainability plan and communication there, and I'll have a little bit of update there in the staff update. But there hasn't been much else lately in terms of outreach and programming.
I know Professor James Tingham is always interested in kind of coming in and giving a talk on renewable energy.
Sure, yeah.
He's been very popular in the past with talking at renewable energy events we've had. Residents and public really like his approach and, just his knowledge base, being the, the expert at UW-Madison with it. So,
yeah, it would be, if we do any events, it's always great to have him here. He's very engaging and knowledgeable. There's a lot more outreach I'd like to do that I've been able to, but haven't found a way to divide myself into two people yet. Working on it. I'll let you know if I get there.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 5, old business. Fall recycling day event planning. Ben?
Yeah, this will be quick. Just had a couple things I wanted to discuss. First off, volunteers. I don't know if anyone here is available or planning on helping out. If so, just you can shoot me an email and I'll get your name on the spreadsheet, and I'll reach out to the to the alders as well. I know many of them have volunteered in the past, but just wanted to kind of gauge who thinks they'll be available to help out that day.
That's September 16th.
And it's correct. It's
Okay.
yeah, it's Saturday.
I should be available.
All right.
And
yeah.
we're planning to stay the same template format we had last time in the spring.
Yes. So same traffic pattern, same vendors, nothing too new here. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, and I think we had talked about some giving away of some odds and ends, native plants or something like that. I just saw that they make these this paper that has seeds embedded in it, like wildflower seeds. So, what if you did, you can get a postcard. You could maybe put some information like a QR code to the sustainability survey, maybe some other resources that the city webpage has on the postcard. And then you can hand them out. They can take a look at it, and then when they're done, they can plant some native wildflowers somewhere in their yard. It's not a bad deal. I mean, it's about $1 a postcard. Thought that was somewhat interesting.
I like that idea, Ben, but I don't think this is the time of year to be planting wildflowers. I think that might be nice in the spring. But one thing to keep in mind, we don't seem to have a problem with attendance at these shred e-cycle events.
Right. No, it would be more of just kind of promoting like the sustainability survey,
Okay.
not necessarily to try to get people here, just to try to promote some cross promotion, if you will.
Yeah. And I would say if you're transplanting wildflowers early in the year is better, but a lot of them drop their seeds in the fall. So if we were throwing out paper seed packets, the autumn definitely can work for that. It's a pretty wide range.
Yeah, most wildflowers need a period called scarification, where they get temperatures at certain degrees for a certain period of time, like 60 to 90 days. So yeah, you put it up in fall, it's okay. So
Bill,
Yeah,
how far into the year are you taking survey results? Is September 16th? I mean, people might respond within 2 weeks after that. Would that be
probably
soon?
later. We'd like to, beyond that. Well, the survey will definitely still be open, so we could definitely solicit responses at the event.
mm-hmm.
I do wonder if, based on the volume that we see come through these events, if on this one we just want to focus on getting normal paper and something less expensive in place, so that we can get every car a flyer that says, awareness on the sustainability survey, encouraging them to take it. I love that postcard idea for future events, though, especially ones where I think we want, either further incentive or even more of like a takeaway kind of thing.
Sure.
But it's a cool concept. I like that.
Would that be something that Kim would be handing to people? Because she sees everybody.
Oh, sorry.
Right?
Yeah.
Not to make your job harder, Kim, but
Yeah, no, I was thinking of that, but when we get to the BYOB event, like I was thinking that might be something to hand out as well as an incentive.
Oh, I meant just, I was going on Josh's comment about just getting a piece of paper out there about the sustainability survey.
Oh, got it. Okay.
If we handed that out at the e-cycle shredding event, the only place that everybody has to go is through your driveway, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's definitely something we could do.
But Kim, depending on that event too, maybe that's where we want to think about the postcards, because I think that they're a little bit more of a investment at an event like that. If the survey is still open, that would be a good way to, further spread to maybe an audience that isn't going to be as aware.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, the card would have a QR code on it to take you right to the survey.
you can send them whatever design front and back you want, and then they'll print it on their paper with the seeds embedded.
Would we have enough time to get that done before September 16th?
You'd have to order them this week or the next, but they say they can get them within 2 weeks. We'll see if I don't know.
Well, the BYOB event is September 9th, right?
Yes.
Which could still give us time. And we do, we have additional budget for sustainability plan outreach, so we could certainly pull it from there.
I really like the idea of.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
What kind of seeds are in those packets? Is it going to be something that we can customize? Like, I know, if you're throwing sunny species in a shady area, they're not going to do so hot, or vice versa.
Right. So there's, from what I saw, several different manufacturers of this seed paper. And there are some different kind of seed blends you can get. There were vegetables, herbs, and then of course wildflowers. I think the wildflower mix that I saw had purple cone flower, black-eyed Susan.
Okay.
Funny
So they
funny
can
one.
take
There
a
is
little bit of
some
both.
ability to get what you want.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say I really like the idea of certainly the postcards at the BYOB, and then I don't know. I'll defer to the rest of this group. I think that unless we really have budget we're looking to spend, I feel like the volume at Shred, if we could print something off, within City Hall or whatever, is going to be a lot less expensive, and we'll be able to get up to the volume that we need to make sure we're covering everybody, kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think,
like that. I like the idea as well at the recycling event, handing something out.
and honestly, if we can get something in place from a printing perspective soon, the other thing that I would be more than happy to do is, when we're going to things like these, there's one more concert at the park at McKee or something like that. I would swing by City Hall and grab a stack of something and go hand it out at a local event like that as well, right? I think if we can get a decent bulk of something set up, we could start distributing it that way too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And if possible, like doing half page or quarter page or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, something small.
We need to do.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, we need to move on to the other agenda items to stay on schedule. Still behind. If
So
not,
I'm just wondering
Go ahead,
before you move on, what it was the decision?
Well, I'll see if I can get some of those little postcards made up in time for the BYOB event.
And do you have a rough idea? We can get to this, I guess, at that, but just a number that you think would make sense?
Sorry, didn't catch that.
I was asking Kim if she had a rough number that she thought would make sense for that.
No, I mean, the challenge is the incentives that we hand out is to people who bring their own bag. So it wouldn't be like handing it out to everyone unless that was something we decided we wanted to do. And I guess I was confused. My mind was going, instead of it being about the sustainability survey, my brain was going, putting some facts about the hazards of plastic bags on the back so it was more geared to that specific event. So that you're like giving a message to people, who are bringing their own bag type of thing.
who would be handing these out, Kim?
Well, it would be myself and then whoever else is planning to volunteer that day.
Okay.
The problem that we've run into, if people come up to us, if people bring a reusable bag, we can go to them. But the store, at least one of the store managers that I talked to, they don't want us I don't think that we necessarily would be doing this, but they don't want us approaching customers unless, that's like if they bring a reusable bag and we're rewarding them. In other words, they don't want us harassing customers. So I don't know that we could go up to everybody that's walking in. They might not appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I told them we wouldn't be doing that.
So where is this left?
Definitely, yeah. There are other events, and that's something Ben and I can talk about. The chamber has multiple events during the year, and there's also just sitting out somewhere with a table when there's not an event going on. Just go to a park.
Well, do you want to do a quarter sheet for the electronics recycling? And then if Kim is at the driveway or whoever's at the driveway can hand those out to people that drive in without the flowers? I mean, that should keep the cost pretty low.
Yeah, we do that.
What about just like the postcard size? That may be a lot easier for Kim to handle, I would think.
Yeah, post quarter sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to look into. I can chat with Ben tomorrow about what the options are. Take a look at their prices, shipping dates, all those things. They may not offer quarter sheets. It might be 3x4, 3x5 is a standard size. So we'll just have to look and see what they've got before making any final decisions here.
Yeah. Okay.
And then also just see what the cost is and what our budget is available, how much that we think we can spend on this for one or multiple events.
Aren't we just talking about a sheet of paper telling people about the sustainability survey?
Oh yeah, sure. And we could print that off in City Hall, but there'll still be a cost there to consider, just a lot lower just to print off a black and white sheet.
And the other thing is you could make one available for the BYOB event that we could just post on the bulletin board for people that come up and with a QR code on it.
Yep. And I like the wildflowers for next spring as a kind of a lead into low mo
Sure.
May or
That'd be
no
cool.
mo May. That'll be a good timing for that. So I think we've got some clarity on our action items and our plan.
Okay, so an action item. So Ben and Phil are going to follow up on the handout at the BYOB and then also at the electronic recycling and get back to us.
No handout at the BYOB, just something on the bulletin.
Oh, just a poster board. Okay.
Yeah.
We can talk about that in the BYOB discussion point as well. I'll include action items pertinent to that down there.
Okay, great. All right. Any other further discussion? If not, let's move on to item 5B. Ben, discuss the dark sky lighting ordinance that you put together. Give us an update.
Yeah. So it's moving along. We sent this out to Mr. John Rummel with the Dark Sky Association. So he was able to just recently get back to me and provide some comments. He also pointed out some other ordinances, both nearby and in other places in the country that he recommended taking a look at. So I kind of went through and made a few adjustments. Ron also had some input as well and made some changes. So I think I feel pretty good about kind of the technical aspect of it as far as the requirements that are being proposed. The thing that I think still needs to be figured out is enforcement and how it would actually be enforced. I think it's easy enough for new construction redevelopment where you have a plan, they have to submit a lighting plan that either gets approved or not approved. But then there's some other things in there, kind of restricting, advertising lighting or some other lighting that someone may have at their residence. So at this point, we're trying to figure out, is that a code enforcement? Is that another thing that they throw into their court? What would the citations be? Some of the things like that. And then at that point, we'll try to put together a little summary, kind of a reasons why we think this is important, and then we can get that over to the mayor and city attorney for their review, and let them ask some questions, and then get it through the council process, hopefully this year yet.
Ben, has this been floated by anybody else in the department to kind of get their reaction, or?
Yeah, so I did kind of discuss it with Deanna Schmidt, our zoning or director of planning and zoning, to kind of get her input as far as how it kind of ties into zoning. A lot of this is, or a lot of the ordinance is kind of based on the zoning of the property / function of the property. So there were some discussions with, how that kind of ties in. I think Bill looked at it, but he's not here anymore. So yeah, I think we'll just have to send it to probably Chad as well. The city administrator would want, I think, take a look at it. I think it's at a point now where I would feel comfortable sharing it with our city administrator and mayor.
Yeah, I think it's looking good. You did a good job putting this together.
Ben, the document that's in our packet, is that what you're suggesting be inserted into the city's ordinances?
Yeah, I mean, there's some little formatting stuff that would be different, but language wise, yes.
So was this extracted from another city's ordinance?
No.
Okay. It doesn't seem to me to really apply to residential units. Is that intentional?
Well, I think there is some language in here, just regarding, let me see here. Well, there is this prohibited lighting that kind of applies just across the board.
I think, it's on page 20, page 6 of 10, building and accent architectural lighting.
Well, based on section 22-857 applicability, that seems to me to just restrict it to new uses, buildings, major additions or modifications, and everything else falls under that. So prohibited lighting, to me, as I read this, and obviously the city attorney would have input on it, but it seems to me that only applies, 22-858 only applies to the people that are under 22-857.
Well, if you look at subsections 4 and 5 in 22-857, that covers existing uses and buildings as well as ownership change. So it's all 5 of those. It's not just the one clause at the bottom of that page. It continues on to page 4 of 10 as well.
Yeah, so that is kind of number 4, and that brings up another good point, because this is something where kind of gone back and forth. Right now, this gives 10 years from the date that this ordinance would be enacted for them to comply with it. So, say there's a building with a big parking lot, they're not planning any renovations or planning to do anything with any of the lights. They would have a certain amount of time before they would have to comply. There's some other language in there that says if they were replacing 50% or 50% of the lighting, then they would have to replace all of it. So there's some kind of thing, and that's another thing that I think the city attorney will be able to provide some good comments on. Some of this was a mishmash of some other ordinances that seem pretty robust in the area. So Village of Shorewood Hills and the city of Madison's newer lighting ordinance. Oshkosh also has Appleton has a fairly robust ordinance as well. So some of that was kind of taken and then revised to, meet what we felt the needs were for here.
So if I read it correctly, then number 5 under that section 22-857, when somebody sells their house, that they then fall under that, and the outdoor lighting has to be changed.
And that's kind of where the enforcement piece comes into play. I think by and large, most residential properties, single family homes, they're probably already compliant with this proposed language and restrictions. I'm trying to think, maybe they've got some kind of landscape lighting or architectural lighting that would fall outside of the guidelines of this ordinance. And then if that was the case, they would, per the language here, they would be required to swap out that lighting with something that was compliant. But when you get to those single family homes, I could easily see it where you can't fix what you don't know. And is there going to be a code enforcement officer stopping out at every house, when they change ownership to make sure that their lighting is all compliant? I think it's the residential single family where the enforcement will be a little bit more of a challenge. I think it's more straightforward, say pick and save, changes ownership. That's easy enough to go in and say, you got to get your lights in compliance. But again, with the smaller, single family homes and the limited lighting that you generally find there, it could be a challenge.
Hey, when a person sells a home, most times they get a home inspection done for the buyer. Does that person doing the inspection have to make sure they're looking at city codes, whether a home or residential building is out of code and has to get fixed, so the buyer knows that, what they're getting into? I don't know if there's requirements.
I would say they should be doing that, as far as I know.
It's not. I don't believe it's required to get an inspection. It's pretty standard. And if they are, it's a difference in compliance and communication with the homeowner. Are they familiar with, do they do most of their work in Fitchburg or in Madison? Are they totally up to speed with all the codes and informing the homeowner? It would be something that would be.
I think they're probably looking more at kind of general building code stuff that isn't going to necessarily vary as much from municipality to municipality, but that's a good question.
Yeah, I didn't know City of Fitchburg had a training program for home inspectors.
Thanks for your work on this, Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, please keep us updated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to item 5C, update on school year startup for cafeteria recycling at elementary and middle schools. Chris, any update on that?
We do have an update on that. So
great.
As many of you know, we've been working on this for a number of years now. Kim, what year does it go back to? 2015? So in 2018, mostly for Andrew, I think, and just a repeat for the rest of you, in 2018, we did a pilot at Aldo Leopold Elementary School, which is where several students from Fitchburg go. And we found that we could have a pretty significant impact on reducing the waste there and starting a cafeteria recycling program. And so what we found is that by stacking the trays, the single-use trays that are used in the Madison elementary schools, paper trays, and then also recycling the milk cartons, we could reduce the waste volume by 75% per day. So how many bags come out of the cafeteria? That's 60 bags were coming out of the cafeteria for every 2-hour session at Aldo Leopold Elementary School. By having a 75% reduction, that meant that number went down to 15 bags, which is making it easier for the custodians. And when you multiply that times the entire school year, the number of bags is 8,100 bags of trash were reduced by just simply recycling the milk cartons and stacking the trays at a single school. So we were telling students by the end of the first school year where they got this, the 2018-2019 school year, that they had kept 8,100 bags out of the landfill through their efforts in the cafeteria, which would mean wrapping trash bags around Aldo Leopold Elementary School 3 times. So when you multiply that times the 33 elementary schools, that's why we've stuck with this and believe in it. And so what happened in May is they went back, students have been in the classroom since COVID, somewhat in the cafeterias, but there's been more of a push to go back into the cafeterias. And so with this push back into the cafeterias, they're going to reopen their salad bars, which are a great idea in terms of getting nutrients into the students, and it helps with food waste. It's less packaging, but what it brings back into play is the trays. And so we feel like the tray stacking is going to come back into the mix. And so anyways, we've had this conversation with just kind of being proactive and letting the leadership in food and beverage and nutrition at the district about kind of the impact on the waste. And then we've also been pushing to try to get the carton recycling going. And so through our efforts, we had been at like 5 schools. We had gotten it up to 5 schools at the end of last school year. They were trying out some new equipment that was a little cleaner, had a little cleaner look to it. And that was tested out in May at Lincoln Elementary School in the Madison School District. And what we found is the custodial staff didn't really like that equipment, they didn't mind the equipment. It just had some feedback on how it wasn't going to be functional. And so taking that feedback, Clean River, who we're working with on the equipment, made those adjustments, and they feel like they're going to have a new prototype that they want to kick out. But in the interim, the district didn't really want to wait any longer for all of that equipment, so they have given us the green light to add an additional 10 schools at the beginning of this school year and 3 middle schools, so 13 schools. So we'll be up to 15 elementary schools and 3 of the 11 middle schools in the district, with the hopes to add a couple schools on per month throughout the school year. With any luck, we'll be at the finish line with getting this implemented in the schools at the end of this next school year, which is awesome news.
Yeah, that's great.
Fantastic.
So that's a little bit of a rundown on it. So if people are interested in helping out, it's going to be a pretty big effort at the beginning of the school year. If you have a little bit of time and want to come and check it out, Aldo Leopold, we'll probably be active there, but we'll also be active at other schools. Feel free to let me know, and we'll keep you in the mix. No expectation to make it to every school, but if you want to come out a couple days early in the school year and help out and see what it's all about, love to have it, because this is where it started with the Fitchburg RCC.
Great. Yeah, I would be interested, Chris. I'll send you an email.
All right.
Chris, what would be your recommendations about engaging next steps for engaging additional districts, say Verona?
Say Verona. Well, I think Sustain Dane is kind of the lead on the implementation of this, and they do all around Dane County events. I believe they may have done one in Verona, but they're pretty dialed into this, and so as we have success with, we want to kind of focus in on getting this one done because we've been working on it so long. As we have success with this, the plan is to spread this out. So we've already been in talks with Deerfield, some schools out in Cottage Grove, some Prairie. I believe I've even talked to a principal at Verona in the past. So I think it'll spread, but we want to kind of keep focused and make sure we see this through in the biggest school district first, and then blossom out from there.
Great.
That's all I've got.
Nice job, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you.
It has been a labor of love, and some of you have been.
I can tell.
Definitely been a labor.
Yeah, I can see your passion. Okay, let's move on to agenda item 5D. Kim, bring your own bag event planning.
All right, so I finally got approval from the Pick and Save. I hand delivered my letter to the manager there, Terry Rock, and talked to him in person about the event and what we wanted to do. He said he would get back to me, which he didn't. So I called him and finally tracked him down and he said that we were good to go for September 9th from 10 to noon in front of the store. So when I talked to him about their willingness to provide an incentive for people bringing their own bags, because Kroger has a pledge to get rid of all of their plastic bags by 2025, he basically shut me down on any incentive. So that's kind of where we're at with an incentive from the store. He said it would have to run up multiple ladders, which I said in my letter that I had asked him about that. So I don't think he did what he said he was going to do, but he is giving us permission. So I've got to kind of brainstorm and figure out what type of incentive we can hand out to people who do bring their own bags. And then want to kind of talk through the logistics and if anyone is available to volunteer for that event. The good news is there's only one door at Pick and Save that people come in and out of, where when we did the event at High B, there were multiple doors. So we had to have two or three displays set up because there were actually 3 doors. So this one, we'll only need to have one table or, table and display set up. And then I want to talk with Phil and Ben about the materials that we've used in the past. If you guys have everything in terms of the display board and the photos. And I know there's also language of some messaging around the plastic bags, which I have copies of the messaging, but I don't have copies of the photos that we use for the display board.
Yeah, I should be able to dig those up again. I used them, was it last year in the spring when the trash lab came to the library?
Oh, okay.
So
great.
I'm the last person that touched them, so hopefully I can find them.
Okay, that would be great.
Are we handing out bags to people that didn't bring them, or no? Because we've got a ton of
well, that
bags.
was one of my questions that I was going to ask. If we did have some bags, we could definitely do that
I don't
as an
think we have
incentive.
any. I don't think we have any Fitchburg bags anymore. We still have old bags from an old National Bank event. They no longer have a branch in Fitchburg, so I don't know.
The bag is still good, though, right?
Yeah, the bag is still good.
Yeah.
Well,
They
Kim,
still need to be used and reused.
2 things. I sent you the electronic documents for the things that the laminates.
Oh,
You
okay,
should
great.
have this in your mailbox. And secondly, I think we still have Dairy Queen coupons, right?
Well, I would have to go and look and see if we still have them. And if I can find them, I may have given them back to the manager or the owner of Dairy Queen, or I just need to go dig for them. And he's no longer the owner. So if I do find them, then I would need to go and talk to Dairy Queen and ask them if we could use them, because they were only for that event that we did pre-COVID. because they would need to be able to accept them. I
Yeah.
wouldn't feel comfortable handing out coupons without getting the go ahead
Yeah.
for that. So that was on my list. I was going to see if I could dig around and see if I could find them. And then go and talk to whoever the new owner is of Dairy Queen. My connection sold the business, unfortunately.
It would be nice on those extra reusable bags that are sitting around if we just had a stack of those. If people wanted one, they could take one.
Mhm.
You know, not necessarily hand them out to everybody, but make them available.
Yeah, I like that. I
Publicity
mean,
for-
we've got so
Idea.
many.
Good
Yeah.
publicity for Old National, and you know,
It's a
I'm
bag.
just sitting
Yeah.
collecting dust
Okay.
right now.
Does the job.
Yeah.
so
How many do you think you have, Ben?
if you want that hard trifold, you need to reserve that through CETA, Mike Zimmerman or Joyce. Not CETA.
Joyce handles those reservations.
And if you just want a cardboard one, I have one.
I think the one that we've used in the past worked pretty well because the pictures stuck right. The lamination, they stuck to the trifold.
Yep.
So I don't know if Phil, or Ben, if you could, I don't know, or you could give me the contact of who to reach out to. I could try to reserve it, or if one of you have a connection to do that, that would be great.
It's really bulky. I'd be happy to email Joyce and ask if we can use it. It's just so that you know, it would need to be picked up on Friday and dropped
Yeah.
back off on, if nobody else needs it, dropped back off on Monday.
Yeah, I could do that. So Diane, you don't mind reaching out to her about it, and then I
No.
can make arrangements to pick it up?
I'll be happy to do that, and I'll
Okay,
copy
thank you.
so that you'll be involved.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Kim, for sharing that.
Yeah, well, and I guess I want to find out if there's anyone that's able to help volunteer that day.
Yeah,
From
I'm
10 to
free.
12. Okay, awesome.
I'm out of town.
If I'm in town, I'd be happy to help, but right now my schedule is a little bit in flux, so I can't.
Okay. No problem. Well, if there's anyone else that is available or interested, just either let Ben or I know. And then maybe Ben, you and I can coordinate if there's, any signs. I mean, we could also have a sign up for the green e-news, for people who maybe stop by the table. We could also hand out the stuff for the sustainability or figure out if there's other things that we'd want to share in terms of facts or, figures or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think we have had, and this might be in the safe with the bulletin board. We have a big rollout sign that we put on the table, that we tape to the table, the front of the table, and hangs down something about the BYOB event. So I don't know if you found that, Phil, when you found the other things. I don't remember exactly what it said. Do you?
That I don't remember.
I thought we had something that said also like Fitchburg or RCC or I don't know, and with one of the tables one time.
It's rolled up.
Yeah, there may just be a standard City of Fitchburg kind of front of table banner hang.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
that rolled up sign should have been with the laminates. I don't know if it's still there or not.
All right. Well,
Okay.
Phil, I'll follow up with you on tracking down some of this stuff. And I can even come into the office someday when you're in there and help look or pick up stuff.
A couple of additional things. So I can't make the event. I have another event that I'm on point for at the same time. So I'm not going to be able to make it, but I will help with like getting ready for the event. So Kim, if you are, pulling things together and you feel like there's, the community outreach subcommittee can help out anyway, we can just have a quick, 15 or 30-minute Zoom with Sharon some morning in the next 10 days or so. And we can talk through some items on it. one of the other things that we do with this event, so we don't really have to market it, we have the people that are just going to be coming to the grocery store. It's on a weekend, it's at a busy time. So we don't really market the event so much, but we have done some social media posts off of it, just educating people on it and that it's happening. And so I could look back to our social media posts that we typically go out from the city of Fitchburg around this event that are meant to just kind of educate some people about it.
I went back and dug through some of the old records and have an announcement that we sent out, and it had like the one we did at Pick and Save, and I think it was 2019. So I can share that with you, and that's something we can then get out via social media.
Yeah. Sounds good. My only other thought was, if the Dairy Queen thing doesn't work out, potentially, is there any available budget in our recycling budget? I know we would hand out the old national bags, but as a reward for the people that are bringing it, if the Dilly Bars and Dairy Queen doesn't work out, potentially we could tap into the recycling budget somehow if there's funds available to help provide those giveaways for the people that are bringing their reusable bags.
Yeah, there's some dollars left in public outreach and education fund. If we feel we want to go that route.
Okay, yeah, we should probably figure that out, fairly quick order, because if the DQ thing doesn't work out, then we're going to have to maybe order something on short notice.
And then just to update people, which I had updated at one of the meetings. So I'm involved through my work with a plastics group, trying to get rid of plastic bags and plastic. And so there's some organizations in Milwaukee and around the state that are interested in also doing this event. So that was why I was trying to get all of the materials so that they don't have to recreate all of this and we all have the same message. So I'm going to be sending stuff out to them to use. They're going to see if they can get something to happen on the same date, but if not, then maybe they'd be looking at doing something around the state at a later date. But we also talked about, for sure, next July doing something, since it's July is plastic. What's it called? It's like reduce your plastics month,
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've been kind of talking about doing some of these events, and maybe see if we, if we can get other people across the state to do a similar event, we could maybe get some press around it as well.
I just want to mention one thing for the people who haven't been involved with the BYOB event before. The first time that we did it, well, the first two times it was at Hy-Vee, and Hy-Vee did some nice marketing for us, and they gave some really nice coupons for us to hand out to customers who brought in their reusable bags. I can't remember exactly what they were, but they were very generous, and so people knew and maybe came to Hy-Vee on that particular day because they knew that we were going to be there and they were going to get this nice discount. One of them was like a dish of custard or some kind of ice cream or something like that. The other thing is, Kim, do you want me to see if the last time I saw Tony Hartman, which was last year, he was gung-ho for doing this again. Do you want me to see if he's available?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Tony would be great.
That's it.
Okay, anything else?
No.
If not, let's move on to agenda item 5E, salt reduction ordinance discussion. Ben, do you have an update on that ordinance?
Yes, so we've gotten comments back, I think, from everyone here, and it's been sent again to Chad and Julia and Valerie. So it's again kind of in their review. I do owe them a list of municipalities that have similar ordinances. I think the list might just be Madison, but I've been kind of looking because I don't want to just send a list with one municipality on it. So I'll need to bug them probably towards the end of this week to see if they have any comments or questions.
Does
Can
it
you
have to be in
send,
Wisconsin?
Midwest was the direction I was given.
Okay.
can you send us what you sent to them so we can see the updated version,
Yes.
please? And also, the Madison Metropolitan Sewer District, they've been really high on trying to reduce ice melt. And they may be a good source to find out who else has any kind of a salt reduction ordinance. I can send you the person who contacted me last year about trying to talk to the chamber, and she might be able to help you. Do you want me to put the two of you in contact?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Was she ever able to talk with the chamber at all?
And Angela did. She tried to contact Angela repeatedly, and Angela didn't respond. And Joyce, who works with Mike Zimmerman, decided that the chamber members wouldn't really be interested in a presentation. So it was really disappointing. So no, she never did.
Okay. Well, maybe that's something we could dust off and try again maybe at some point.
That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's really kind of it for the update. I just gotta bug them, see where they're at. If they've got any other comments. If they don't, then I think it's time to make it through the rounds and let council make a decision on it.
It would be nice to get this. This would be considered an ordinance amendment. Is that right? It'd be nice
Yes.
to get that to council so that if it passes, we can start educating the public about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ideally it would be passing now or in September. We'll see. Hope September, I think, is still possible. Don't really want to see it go into October, but
Well, first it has to go to council, then they refer it out, and then it goes
right.
back to
It'll be a
council.
month-long process
Yeah.
from start to end.
Well, thanks for lighting the fire. Thanks in advance for lighting the fire, and thanks for getting it this far.
Ben, I think if you remember, I talked about this previously or with you. The state of Minnesota has a lot of salt reduction things going on in the state. In fact,
They
they're
do,
kind of like
yes.
the
They've got some
leading
great
agency.
resources there. They
Yeah,
seem to be a little
MPCA.
bit ahead of Wisconsin
Yeah,
when it comes to the chloride reduction.
yeah. So they probably have municipalities out there that are actually implementing ordinances.
Well, and maybe they don't have something identical, but maybe they have something that's even more stringent that would
Okay.
kind of help.
Way back when we started this, we looked at Minnesota's, I can't remember
Yeah.
which city, but we looked at what they have. So they do have something.
Okay. Well, thanks, Ben. Okay, next thing on the agenda is council update, and Gabriella's not here. So not sure what we do when she's absent. It's just,
We'll just get a longer update next month.
yeah. So we can move on to agenda item 7, staff update, which will help us get back on schedule.
We're 2 minutes ahead. Great job.
Yeah. Good job, Josh.
Yeah.
All right, solid waste update, Ben.
Yeah, so with the solid waste contract coming up in 2024, wanted to kind of take another look at the potential for organics, curbside pickup. So there's a survey out right now. I figure we'll keep it open for quite some time. Just got some basic questions whether or not, people would be interested in using a curbside pickup service for organics. Just some other kind of general questions as far as anything that would deter them from doing so. General things like that to see if there's anything that the city or the city's vendors could or would do that would be helpful at getting more people to participate in a curbside organics collection program.
When you say organics, what do you mean?
So like food waste.
Oh, because when I see the word organics, I think chemicals.
Yeah, well,
This is
yeah,
like,
we'll say food
like that.
scraps.
Yeah, so I think we need people with more clarification on that. So,
All right.
this is like composting.
yeah, that's why I kind
Yeah.
of figured. But when I see the word organics, I mean, that comes to my mind. As a scientist, that's what comes to my mind.
Yeah, so they always just call it source separated organics. SSO is what I always see it referred to as.
Did you say there's a survey out, Ben? How are you letting people know about that?
Yeah, this.
I think it was in the Green E newsletter. We'll promote it on social media. This survey is going to be out for several months. I don't see a real reason to necessarily have it end. I think it's so it's just, again, trying to gauge interest in a program like this. Pelletieri does actually offer a food waste pickup curbside. So actually in their last RFP response, they did provide pricing for that service so they can do it. The city has done one or two pilot programs, I believe in the Swan Creek neighborhood. I want to say 2013, 2015, that kind of time range, where they did try out a curbside collection of food scraps and other organics. I think it went fairly well. Feedback from residents that participated was overall very positive. One of the biggest hurdles or leaps to kind of having a citywide model was where do you take all the stuff? There's different farms that or different composting operations throughout Dane County that would, but really I think, and I've mentioned it before, but with the Dane County Landfill Sustainability Campus and their plans of a large digester, they would be looking for stock basically to digest. I think Fitchburg, with its proximity, makes a lot of sense. So they've actually reached out to us to see if there would be interest in the next few years whenever this digester would be built. So that's kind of just trying to dust it off, see what the interest is, take another look at it and see if it's something we would want to maybe do another pilot program with Pelletieri in 2025 once you've got a new contract with them and the digester would be closer to constructed. So yeah, that's kind of the deal with the organic survey that's up right now.
Yeah, I'm on the website now. It's called the Fitchburg Composting Survey.
Yeah, might have to
That's
change
one,
the
right?
name. That's all right.
Is that the right name?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so for 2023. So
Ben, are you ready to move on to your other recycling solid waste issues?
Yes.
Your update mentioned that you're looking for ways to reduce contamination of recyclables at city parks.
Yes.
Do those containers have the stickers on that we talked about earlier?
Well, that's one of the things we kind of came up brainstorming would be they do have stickers, but they're not, it's a white background with red lettering. They're kind of old, faded, ripped up, gross a little bit. And I think it just says recyclables only. So one of the things we thought of was getting a new kind of decal to put on these bins that maybe was a little bit more noticeable and also provided a little bit more direction as far as what could be recycled. So that was one thought that we had. Some other things that came up in discussion was, if you go to Quick Trip, you'll see they've got their little recycling module that has the different size and shape slots. If maybe that's something that could help reduce contamination. Talking about the location of the bins, maybe there should be more of them. Right now, I know there's not any out at McKee Farms Park. There isn't really any by the ball fields, the ball diamonds, or the soccer fields. So it's certainly an issue, and it's a tough one to solve. A lot of interesting information out online about how other places have kind of tried to solve the contamination issue. Disney World had a pretty good example there. Their solution was they want to have recycling receptacles every 30 to 40 feet. So they kind of went with the approach, well, if we just have recycling bins everywhere, then people will recycle. Well, but does that also cause more contamination? So I think the other important thing is anytime you have a recycling bin, you want to have a refuse bin right next to it, because even if it's 10 feet away, people might just throw their garbage in the recycling bin rather than, walk the extra 10 feet. So yeah, there's been a lot of discussion. On a normal weekday, I don't think the contamination is at like an unacceptable level. I think it's primarily after weekends, or big events, after the concerts on the park, or anytime you've got, just a lot of people at the park, seems to be where they have the bigger contamination issue. So any thoughts would be
the sticker that the city sent around for recycling. I think it had, you can, recycle this, don't recycle this, or something like that. If there are any left at City Hall, that might be a good place to start.
Yeah, and I think that's what we need, is not just recycle, but actually a little bit more information and direction.
If you can't find one, I don't even know if my cart has one on, but if it does, it probably does, because I would have put one on if I had one. I can send you a picture of it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look around. But yeah, if the group has any other thoughts or ideas, I know we'd be all ears.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ben. Oh, I might point out on that survey, it's only 7 questions, so it's a real quick organic waste collection survey. So shouldn't take you long. Stormwater update?
That's all I got for solid waste.
Okay, stormwater?
So we are continuing to develop plans and bid documents for the Techlands infiltration basin. So this was the project I alluded to earlier when we discussed the Greenway Cross Eggman project. So whatever's left in this dredging account after using some of those dollars to pay for the Greenway project, the remainder would go towards this Techlands infiltration basin repair. So this basin, just north of Nobel Drive, kind of by the Smoky Greenway or the Smoky Trail. I don't know if you're familiar with the area or the basin in particular, but it has not been functioning as it was designed for quite some time. So we're finalizing some plans to get that fixed. The citywide water quality model in the total maximum daily load area is starting to come to an end. So AECOM, the consultant that the city is working with, is finalizing their wind slam model and hope to have some results and a final report within the next few weeks. So that'll be a pretty impactful document. Certainly it should guide future decisions as far as what sort of stormwater quality projects are going to deliver the best bang for the buck, if you will. So pretty excited to have that wrapped up. We are also working with AE2S. They had completed a feasibility study looking at these stormwater drainage along Crescent Road, just north of Dunn's Marsh. Again, there's some flooding issues there, particularly with the Megan's Bay condo. So we're working with them to finalize a scope to get us through final design, permitting, and ultimately bidding and construction. Last week was Wisconsin Stormwater Week. I don't know, did anyone know that?
No.
No.
Well, we got to do a better job on. You weren't watching Fact TV then.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was some fun events that went on. There was kind of a cool selfie at the storm drain murals. So people were taking selfies next to storm drain murals and submitting them to the city of Madison. They were kind of doing it for all of Dane County, and people are getting some different prizes. I think they were giving away some rain barrels and stuff like that. So it was a cool event. And then there were just a series of webinars. There was also a rain barrel sale and a downspout garden sale. So that's some kind of cool stuff. So that wrapped up. Had a good meeting with the DNR, discussing some potential stream rehabilitation projects in the city of Fitchburg. So the two we kind of talked about were the Yarmouth Greenway. So anyone that's participated in the cleanup in that area probably knows that there are some erosion issues with the bank. So there's quite a bit of sediment that washes out in the banks during our, larger storm events, or even the smaller ones likely. So we're looking at working with the DNR, potentially Yahara Winds, to put a plan together to improve the stream there. The other, I guess, larger potential project would be actually in Nine Springs Creek. Dane County Land and Water at some point will likely do a Suck the Muck project in Nine Springs Creek. So the Suck the Muck is basically what they're calling their stream dredging projects. They've completed a few already. I think 6 Mile Creek, Dorn Creek. I'm probably forgetting some, but essentially it's the removal of what they call legacy sediment from the stream channel. So this is sediment that's washed in from agricultural practices dating back to 1800s, as really as soon as this area kind of developed with agriculture. So they've been removing huge volumes of this sediment, which is chock full of phosphorus and it gets released back into the system. So I think we would look at partnering with Dane County and maybe a group like Yahara Winds as well as the DNR to maybe do add on kind of to their Suck the Muck project in the Nine Springs Creek. So whether that's armoring some of the banks to prevent bank erosion, or maybe even reintroducing some meanders through the channel. Right now, it's just a straight ditch, very unnatural. So that will be certainly an exciting project, and I'm very happy that we're having these conversations with the DNR. I think there's a lot to gain in that area. Project like that.
Ben, will these projects be part of a future CIP then?
Well, it's pretty early. I would say the Yarmouth Greenway project is, well, I wouldn't say any kind of stream project is simple, but it's certainly a little more straightforward than the Nine Springs Creek project, just due to, I mean, you've got certainly it's a less expensive project. You have less partners, and kind of it really just be kind of a stream bank stabilization project. So you're not going to have all these different components. But yeah, I would say they probably should be added to the CIP next year when we get a chance at it.
Okay.
And hopefully there would be some significant outside funding from a group like Yahara Winds. So they're kind of the adaptive management lead, since no municipality or no MS4 municipality meets their phosphorus goals. They work with Yahara Winds, who performs mostly agricultural projects to reduce farm runoff, manure runoff, stuff like that, into the streams. It's just what it comes down to is dollars per pound of phosphorus. It's cheaper to remove phosphorus from the system off of agricultural land generally than it is in an urban environment. So that it's kind of, they're targeting the low hanging fruit, if you will. But they have done some other projects outside of agriculture. So we'd be looking to, potentially get some funding from them as well. But yeah, a couple interesting projects.
On Suck the Muck, would that require just us paying Dane County for their dredging part of it?
Well, they would pay for the dredging part of it themselves.
Okay.
So what Fitchburg's role would be, when they do a Suck the Muck project, I don't think they're necessarily looking into some of those other kind of, habitat restoration, remeandering, stream bank stabilization. So we would maybe be just paying for, kind of the add-on to just the straight sediment removal and making it more of a kind of a holistic project.
Yeah, makes sense.
Ben, two questions. After they do the dredging, do you go around and review? Do you just take a look at everything and how the dredgers have done their job?
Yeah. So before it gets filled back up with water, you want to look at. So I guess just a pond in this instance. They'll have it all pumped out so they're not dredging in water. I mean, you can, but that's not how the city's had it done. So you kind of get a chance to look at what the bottom of the pond is. Actually, all three of the ponds that the city dredged this year had a very clear pond bottom. And that's just due to the fact that all three of these ponds, when they were constructed, the pond bottom was constructed with clay, a compacted clay liner. So it's very obvious once you get out of the sediment layer and into the clay liner layer, it's a very clear distinction. So we just want to see that they've gotten the sediment out and they've gotten to the the clay liner, essentially, and restored it to the pre-dredged or, original conditions.
My other question is on that stormwater week or month. Did you include that in the green e-list? Did you
Bill,
publish?
did that make it in the green e-newsletter? I thought it did.
I don't remember seeing that, but if you whether you did or didn't, next year, if you could just include it in there and maybe shoot us all an email about it.
Sure. What else do I got? Just some culvert replacements going on ahead of the street resurfacing project. And this is a pretty good one. So our GIS, the city's graphic interface system or geographic interface system, has been updated. So all of the stormwater management plans and as-built drawings that we have are actually linked to the respective basin layer. So if I click on, the Chapel Valley West Pond, I'll get some attachments. You can see the stormwater management report, the as-built drawings. So whatever one you click on. So that's been a pretty big time saver because a lot of that stuff was everywhere. So those our intern Josie did a very nice job on that this summer.
Great.
And that's all I got.
Hey, Ben, is something going on at Goose Lake? Because when I was going over the Hy-Vee, I noticed I think it was a city vehicle or people out there looking or surveying or doing something.
Yeah, so it's just part of the Fitchburg Road project.
Right.
It could have been they have to do a wetland delineation, basically on east, west, within and just outside of the right of way. So it could have been that. I think they've also got some soil borings that they were going to do out there if they haven't already.
Okay. So this is for the flooding and trying to do something out there to figure out how to fix it, right?
Well, so I'm also working on an RFP for design and permitting of the recommended alternative that the city received from A2S. So that's more focused on the flooding. Right now, if they were out there, it was probably more strictly just road reconstruction. Now, I guess I shouldn't say strictly road reconstruction, since they will be adding some storm sewer. They basically will be removing all of the existing culverts that are out there now and replacing them. So I believe that just what they're working on will provide some modest benefit to the flooding out there, but it's not going to solve everything. They'll need a project out in Goose Lake to kind of lower that water level a little bit, or make sure it doesn't get so high that water can't come off the road.
Okay, thank you.
Ben, with this, what was it, 2 weeks ago that we had 3, at least according to my rain gauge?
Yeah, about 3 inches last Friday.
Yeah. And then today, two things. That Cheryl Drive reconstruction, has that solved that problem? Are they still having flooding issues?
Well, I talked to one of the residents on Monday after the 3 inches, and they said that their mulch, and they've kind of got some mulch in the right of way, just planted around a tree. She said that would always get washed out into the road, and it wasn't. So
good.
I think it has to be doing something. That's a big pipe through there and some extra capacity. So it should dramatically improve the situation down there.
Good.
Did you have, with all that rain then and today, did you have any unexpected issues?
There were some washouts a couple weeks ago, actually by the Pick and Save. There's that bike path along Fish Hatchery. Some of that got washed out. I think that's
Really?
already been repaired. Um, Greenway Cross, Eggman, Coho, that area. I got a couple calls, so we know about that. I think because it's been so dry, the water levels at Goose Lake have been low, so we're not going to really see flooding because the water level in Goose Lake itself is so low. It can take some more water before it starts impacting water on Fitchburg Road. I mean, after today, I don't know, another 2.5 inches, whatever. We'll see if that made much of a dent in the water level at Goose Lake. But if it was drought-like conditions for 6 months and then we got a 6-inch rain, I doubt Fitchburg Road would flood just because Goose Lake would still have so much capacity to take the runoff due to the fact that it was in a drought condition for the previous 6 months. So it's all kind of difficult to say for sure, but even like that Sub-Zero kettle where they did the wetland scrape, before that rain a couple of weeks ago, it was virtually dry, which I had never seen before.
Wow.
And it was full of water earlier in the summer, which doesn't make any sense. So there's groundwater things that come into play, and it can get a little convoluted, complex, and complicated.
How about that area bordering Oregon? Has that dried up also?
Lake Barney,
Yeah.
well, it's at the beginning of the year, it was significantly lower than what it had been in 19, 20, 21. I'd be interested in seeing an aerial of it later this year to see what it looks like. Or just I could maybe have to go bike down the Rotary Trail through there out of curiosity and see, but I haven't heard any issues from Oregon's side.
And the only other thing I was going to ask you is, especially with that big event a couple weeks ago, where we had kind of a lot of washouts of just like people's mulch, and it's good to hear that some of our problem areas aren't getting it, but I've definitely seen it in some of the kind of the more common, like catch areas or whatever. Are we, like, I'm assuming the street sweepers out on a regular cadence. Would we ever send out like the vacuum trucks to some of those more common areas just to like check the storm sewer or whatever?
Yeah, that's probably something we could be doing more of. Typically there's the 2 street sweepers and they just run all day, every day, more or less. If there was an area that we knew had a history of kind of blockages in the storm sewer, I think that it would make a lot of sense to do that. I think most of the flooding issues in Fitchburg are probably not as much related to blockages within the infrastructure, but just not big enough pipe.
Yeah, that's good to know. Okay.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, item 7C, sustainability update. Phil?
We're running a little bit low on time, so I won't. I think I can go through these pretty quickly. So what's in the agenda packet, working on background work for the sustainability plan still. I've got all the background data that has been requested now to Pale Blue Dot. At last check, which was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had 100 survey responses and 9 applications for the planning team. So Diane, you had asked about how long the survey is going to stay open. We're going to keep that open kind of until we feel like we have enough responses. There's not a particular targeted end date there. We just really want to hear from as many people as possible. So looking at a few different avenues for that. I know I sent out flyers earlier. I will, if anybody is interested in posting more of those, send me an email, let me know. I'll send you flyers you can print out, and I'll think about where those can go. We've done a social media post. We've done the green e-newsletter. I'm talking with our social media manager about possibly paying for a boosted post with some of our budget available for this. So just trying to find some different ways to get the word out there. For the planning team, we'd really like to start those meetings sometime in September. So I'm probably going to close up those applications in the next couple weeks. We'd really like to be closer to 20 or 30 than the 9 that we had, but I'll have to check with Ted on what the update there is for numbers. Also, we'll be looking to do some event tabling. So and my earpiece is telling me but my battery's low. So if I cut out, I'll have to figure out the microphone and apologize for the few seconds of silence. So I did talk with Angela about the concerts at McKee Park, and they really do try to avoid. There we go. So
We can still hear you.
how about
You're on mute.
We could hear you before, Phil, so just undo whatever you did.
Yeah. I took the survey over this weekend. It went fairly quickly, like 5 to 10 minutes.
okay? Can y'all hear me again?
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry about that. So that was weird. Should have lasted a little bit longer. But where was I? Oh, they try to avoid any kind of tabling or other promotional things at the concerts at McKee Farmers Park. So we won't do that probably, but I'm trying to figure out a table for the farmers market. We've also got the Fitchburg Art Fair coming up this coming weekend. I'll have to see if I could get somebody who could work a table for me there, because I've got a first birthday to host. But yeah, looking for different ways that we can get the word out about this, and just kind of trying to keep that going. We've also been making progress in our solar inverter issues.
Bill,
Got a couple things noted there. We do have one inverter that needs to be fixed still at the Public Works maintenance building, and that it looks like we're going to have availability from the team in early September for that. Hoping to get the 2 that are a problem on the library fixed as well, but just trying to figure out if we have the budget to pay for that maintenance this year. We have not gotten any updates on the complaint that we filed with Huawei. I don't expect that anytime soon. They haven't exactly made this priority.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah, working through agenda items for September. That'll be just me. It'll be a sustainability focused RCC meeting. So of course we'll talk about the progress of the sustainability plan, and certainly would like to talk about some of the communications things that have been brought up periodically at RCC. But yeah, if you have any other ideas, definitely let me know. Yeah, Ron?
Well, Diane's got a question. Can you hear
They're
her?
not right now. Just a second. Try again.
Diane has a question. Can you hear us?
Oops, sorry. I'm not hearing you at the moment. This is a me issue and not you. So let me try one other thing. There we go. Try again.
I was just wondering how many surveys you were hoping to get. How many responses?
I don't have a particular number in mind. 100 is 0.3%, I believe, of Fitchburg's population, and that's a lot lower. I would love to at least top 1%. My goal was more like 1,000. That would be a lot, and Ted said that would set their record for response rate among the population. So my goal is maybe unrealistically high, but that's where it is. I'd like to see us get into that number, if only because with something like this, thinking about response rates and populations, if we only get 100, we're kind of getting the standard crowd that's looking for this stuff already, or they're really keyed in. If we start getting up into 500 to 1,000, to me, that means we're really starting to make inroads on somewhere in the population that I really want to hear from. I don't just want to know from the people who already do low mow, who already bring their own bags, who already recycle, what they think about sustainability. I think I already know. I kind of want to hear from the other parts of the city that don't engage regularly. This survey is only one way that we can try to do that, but that really is the goal, is to, I want to hear from people who, who don't recycle for various reasons, people who have questions about why things like no mow May and paying for recycling are important.
because obviously this is kind of a, we all need to row together, and I'd really like to get some more people engaged. But yeah, that's the goal. It's not based on anything scientific. It just feels nice.
Thanks.
And so, sorry, Ron, you had your hand raised and I missed that entirely.
No, I was just letting know that Diane had a question.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
There were a couple other things that I had in here that weren't in the agenda packet. I thought of them today. I did mention there's a lot of stuff going on with biking. So that's taking a lot of my time. The biggest one is B-Cycle. So we have B-Cycle, 7 stations around Fitchburg. We have a grant from the DOT to get that expanded closer to 20 or 25. We are still working on a contract with B-Cycle that has been very slow going. We're kind of trying to hammer out the responsibility for the 20% local match. But as soon as we get that going, we've got a number, as soon as we get that contract signed and through council, we have a number of stations ready to expand to. So that'll be really nice. Hopefully this fall still. I did just a kind of a couple general RCC, not necessarily specifically sustainability, but general RCC announcements that I've talked with Ben and Ron recently and thought it would be worth mentioning. One is I want to try changing the sort of how the minutes work going forward. I think that it might be more efficient, assuming we get the previous draft minutes out, and they should generally be out within a week of the meeting. If they're not, certainly let me know, but they'll be posted where agenda packets are posted on the city's website. I'd like to have requested edits to the minutes sent to me the Friday before the meeting. So that gives me a little bit of time to kind of check those and review them against, what's happened. It means that I'm not searching for things when they're brought up in the meeting. So I've got a little bit of time to go through and, already kind of get ahead of those changes. And then that should make things more efficient in the meeting on Monday night. So I'll send out a reminder to that effect, but I'd love to try that process and see if we can speed that along a little bit, take up less time in the meeting.
If you want us to do that, then I suggest you send us the minutes directly. I checked twice after the last meeting, including 2 weeks after the meeting, and they still weren't there. And I don't want to do that. If you want feedback from us, I think you should send us the minutes directly.
The minutes should always be included when the agenda packet is sent out. This, we've already talked about they weren't for this month, but as I mentioned, the requirement from council is that minutes be posted no later than 1 week following the meeting. So they should always be up there. Again, when packets are sent out, that'll be included with that. I'll talk with Ben about it. Maybe it makes more sense to ask for comments on Monday at some point so that you have a full weekend to review as well. I think that we definitely have run into points where minutes take up 10 or 15 minutes. Well, maybe not that much, but 5 to 10 minutes of a meeting. And we already have packed meetings that can really cut into our discussion time on other topics. And another one that's kind of related just in general. I think I am guilty of this tonight for sure, but try to make a better habit in general of not bringing up items that aren't noticed in the meeting agenda. I'm already forgetting which one it was, but there was some tonight that I brought up that was not included. And so, there are things that definitely fit in sections like announcements or in activities being conducted or monitored by commissioners. But things that are like, it would also be good to discuss this item. If it's not noticed, it really is more appropriate to talk to Ron and Ben about putting that into the agenda for the next meeting so that then it is publicly noticed that we're going to discuss that topic. And again, that's not something for announcements. Hey, this thing is coming up next week. Are people interested, or something along those lines? But just kind of as a general point of order, kind of housekeeping item. And that's everything I got with sustainability.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello. Okay, great. I was thinking about, the BYOB and the sustainability survey. I mean, to me, it seemed like it would be a good play for us to hand out, those postcards with the QR code on them for the sustainability plan for people to do it, because there you would get a diverse population coming in and out of Pick and Save.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I agree.
Something to think about.
And it would be we've already got flyers. We could certainly mock something up that would be easily printable on a postcard size or a quarter sheet, and just kind of
Yeah.
keep a stack of those that can be handed out anytime.
All right, is there any other questions for Phil or Ben on the staff update? If not, let's see, it's 8:58, we're kind of close. Last item that we have is activities being conducted or monitored by the commissioners. I just had one question, or I guess one request, is that when we have these events and things like that, make sure you get photographs of what's going on at the event. I'm not sure, Ben or Phil, if you guys have some kind of a folder or file in your hard drive, or the city has one where if we send those photos to you for a specific event, you keep track of them.
Yeah, we've got an RCC folder where we can save those. I know we have photos in various places. I'm not sure if there's one central photos folder for RCC, but that's fairly standard practice. Is if we've got photos, we'll file them away.
Okay. Because I've taken photos at different events, and they're on my hard drive, but I'd like to be able to share them. So, particularly if we use them for future presentations and things like that. Anybody else have anything?
That's a good thought, Ron. I think, it'd be helpful for like committee of the whole meetings. You're just showing a little bit about the attendance, people that haven't been to our events, just giving them a feel for how many people are attending these events, and a little bit on some of the topics that we cover.
Right. Yep. All right. If not, we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 9 o'clock. Thank you for keeping us on time, Josh, and thank you everyone for attending.
Good job, Josh.
All right.
I'll thank Gabriella for being out of the country. That's
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, all.